Welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast with Dr. Jesse Green, the show where great dentistry meets great business. Listen in each week as we bring you an inspiring person who will share their story, ideas and business techniques to help you create a practice and a life you love. And now introducing your host, Dr. Jesse Green.
Hello everyone, welcome back to SavvyDentist.com and to the Savvy Dentist podcast. It is fantastic to have you here for another episode of the show. Now, if you've not already grabbed your copy of our free report, which is how to build a high-performance dental practice, please grab it, put it into place. And if you want to use it, it's going to give you 7 steps to really take your practice to the next level. To grab it, all you need to do is go to savvydentist.com/high-performance-report, and you can grab it for free. It's all yours. And so get stuck into it and off you go. Now, today I'm speaking to you all about stock management and ordering, and my guest is Luca, who is the founder of Invident.com. And in our conversation, we're going to be talking about all things stock management, all things ordering. And what you're going to come to appreciate is it's no good just looking at ordering as a single lens, because if we look at it as a single lens, we're going to end up creating spreadsheets and sticky notes and scrapbooks through our ordering process, and we're going to be solving the wrong problem. And you'll appreciate that we've then got to look at it through a stock management perspective or through a stock management lens, and then look at the ordering first. And when you do it that way, what you're going to find is you're going to be able to move from having an ad hoc ordering system to really integrated stock management and ordering system that's going to save time, save money, and ultimately a lot of headache and hassle along the way. So Luca, welcome to the program. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jesse. I've been super excited all week to jump on the podcast. So cheers.
Well, me too, mate. It's always good to have a chat. But I'm curious to understand, because this undertaking that you've built with Invident is something that most of us who've run a practice before would be saying, amen, hallelujah, thank goodness someone's done this. But I don't know a single uni degree that would equip you for going, hey, guess what? In my career, I'm going to go and build a stock management and an ordering system. How did you kind of find your way into that? What was the background or what led you down that path?
I was actually very fortunate to have a dad who's been involved in the industry for a very, very long period of time. So about 40 years, my dad's been a dental prosthetist, and he's got 5 dental prosthetic practices across Perth. So over the years, he's also been involved in a lot of general dental practices as well. Yeah, I guess I got a really great opportunity from a young age to be involved in the industry. I think by the age of about 12, I was going around with him to the different practice locations, just helping out for some extra pocket money. So I guess got to the age of about 17 and pretty much knew exactly what I wanted to do and started into full-time work as a dental technician. Yeah, kind of worked in dad's business for about 5 years, really got to experience what it was like to help run 5 dental clinics, which is, it's not really an opportunity many 18-year-olds get at that point in their life, which is super fortunate to have. Quickly realized that stock management and ordering was a huge issue in his business that was causing so many problems at such a large scale. Pretty much from there, tried all of the processes that were available. We tried the whiteboards, the sticky notes, the tagging systems, the spreadsheets, and nothing really solved the problem. Or it might have worked for a month, but we'd always end up back where we started. And it was just such a frustrating process. So what I did was started to look for a software solution that was dental specific, that would actually solve the problem, and couldn't find anything that was Australian based. It felt like we're a little bit in the dark ages when I was looking on Google and just couldn't find anything. Long story short, quit my job working the family business, which didn't necessarily go down too well at the time of the old man. He's very much got an Italian background. So it was quite hard on me at the time. Yeah. Started Invident with the help of a co-founder named Bailey Moore. And we really built a team to solve this problem the way that it needed to be solved. We've been up and running for about 2 years now. We're in dental practices all over Australia, and we've got over 10 people working in the business. And I've also been working quite closely with different Australian Dental Association branches, especially the WA and the Victorian branches. They've been quite awesome. We provide Invidents to their members as a member benefit. We will be actually rolling the product out through a bunch of other branches towards middle to the end of this year. So I guess, that's a bit of a background of how we got to where we are now. And it's been a really awesome journey so far.
Well, good on you, mate. And look, I was just thinking about working in your dad's business and taking on, the 5 prosthetic practices. That is, welcome to the deep end, quite literally. It's not like a single practice where you can kind of learn the ropes and then bring on the second or the third or the fourth. It's kind of like straight into the deep end. When it comes to managing stock and the process of managing stock, what is the biggest problem really that you encountered in your experience and that you see happening in dental practices more broadly, and whether there's challenges that relate to different sizes of practice or different locations? What are the key things you see that people struggle with?
There's a lot of different key areas that a practice struggles with. And it's more so how I like to see it, and you kind of summarized it before, is breaking it into those 2 parts. So you've got your stock management side, and then you've got your ordering side, and then all your kind of problems filtered within those. So when you actually define both of these areas, stock management's more so around knowing what and how many you have in stock, knowing how many you need to order, and actually keeping track of what has and hasn't arrived. And ordering is more so focused on getting the best price, sticking to a budget, dealing with your reps, and also processing all of your orders. So to actually solve all of there's so many little issues that kind of come of both of these areas. And we split them into 2 parts to kind of simplify it. I just want to take a bit of an actual step back into what we did before we actually looked at solving the problem. We really needed to understand both of these areas to work out what problems did we need to solve in these dental practices. Now, when we first actually started Invadent, we gathered around 10 dental companies of all sizes. So your single chair, your multi-chair, your multi-location practices. Yep. I think we ended up having around 25 practice locations at that point. But Bailey and I just spent months trying to just figure out what their problems were and how we're going to solve them with a software solution. So we worked out what worked well, what didn't work so well. And pretty much the main key takeaway we got from all of that market research is that you can't do the ordering unless you know what and how many you need to order. Yeah. Which is so important in some of these practices. And I guess summarizing all of that is we worked out that stock management was the number one most important problem to solve. And it was the thing that was going to save the dental practice the most amount of money with a good, efficient process. But one thing that I really couldn't understand is why all of these dental practices seem to oversee stock management and continuously try to reduce their stock expenditure by solving the ordering problem first and shopping between the suppliers and the practice owners setting these budgets in the clinics to control the spending in the practice, which actually restricts the growth from what we've seen. So because practice owners are so time poor, it's very easy for them just to look at the numbers on the invoices. And they think that they're saving that money on paper, but in the background, it can cause the practice and the stock manager to solve the problem through that lens of ordering, which can develop into that manual, inefficient process. So it kind of causes a couple of little issues from there, which is more so around efficiency, causes a lot of errors. And then there's also that key person risk in the practices that I see a lot as well.
What you've articulated is the first thing is how many things to order and what am I going to order and how many, basically. Yeah. It sounds like such a simple thing. Like it does sound like a fairly basic and fundamental question, but equally there's so many ways that can be wrong or misleading. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about inventory management because I like to look at things from a cash flow perspective. I'm a numbers guy. I still love a good spreadsheet. I know software's better than spreadsheets for this, but I still love a good Excel spreadsheet and I'd nerd out on this stuff. So one of the things I look at is cash flow and I do my cash flow forecasts and so on and so forth. And what I'm always mindful of is, if you look at your balance sheet, one of the things to drive cash flow, to improve cash flow is to really manage inventory days. And a really famous example, I know you know of this company as well, Dell Computers. They're very well known for having their central headquarters at Austin in Texas and all their suppliers basically satellite around them. And what happens is, we get online, we order the computer. Of course, Dell then, orders a motherboard, a casing or whatever else goes into the computer. And literally 4 hours later, that computer is assembled and shipped. So Dell's inventory days are 4 hours, basically. And I think Apple's inventory days are even shorter than that again. So one of the things that I think from a business owner's perspective that I'm always really mindful of is how do we manage cash? How do we manage having enough stock on the shelf, not having too much stock on the shelf so we're not wasting money. We don't have money sitting on the shelf, but not running out of stuff when we need it as well. So I'm wondering if you've got any thoughts around managing inventory levels. I know the software can do this, that, and the other, but how do we address that?
Yeah, so if you look at Dell computers, they've got the software and the tools to support them in what they're doing, right? So when they go to take something off the supplier shelf, that item gets scanned out before it goes out the door. Now, in a dental practice, it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. The dental practice has sometimes 6, 7, 8, 15 staff going into the stock room and just kind of grabbing whatever they like, which is a lot of the reason why it's such a difficult process to track. So the key difference is that Dell's got that point of sale pretty much. So it's very similar to your supermarket. You go to take something off the shelf, you scan it out, obviously flags that minimum and maximum. But for a dental practice, they don't even know how many they've got on the shelf, right? You go into a dental clinic and they've got spreadsheets where they're manually writing down the quantities that they've got. They're recounting their stock. They're copying orders from the whiteboard to the notebook to the computer to then go and order the stock.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, but exactly. And Dell have got that system that when it gets to that minimum quantity, it then flags the order and automatically orders it, right? And that's kind of the lens that we like to look at it is how do we solve stock to then obviously solve ordering and provide you with that list of things you need to order from all of those suppliers. And for us, it's, okay, cool. Let's give a dental practice that minimum and maximum quantity. So let's say if I've got a box of gloves, you set a min of 2 and a max of 10. Once it gets down to your minimum of 2, it's then going to recommend 8 to get it back up to your maximum. And then obviously integrate that ordering with your suppliers, send those orders off, which means that you don't need to rely on one to actually manage that process. It's all done from a system that's there to support your staff instead of having your staff just kind of guessing as they're going, which is what I see in a lot of dental practices.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here, mate, which I'd love to just talk about. Obviously, we want to look at what happens when you've got a stock management problem, how that shows up, basically.
Yeah.
Because we've already addressed the fact that that's kind of the lead domino we need to really take care of here. Perhaps let's start there. Then I've got a follow-up question I'd like to just run past as well. So, if I've got a stock management problem, maybe I'm oblivious to it. Maybe I'm, there's these symptoms, but I've got to identify what the cause is. If we know the cause is stock management issues, what sort of symptoms might a practice be experiencing as a result of that?
I like to categorize those symptoms into 3 key areas. So you've got efficiency, errors, and then key person risk. Now, when I talk about stock management, I remove money from that conversation just for explaining it. There is a money aspect of stock wastage and stuff like that comes along with it. But when I explain it for stock management, it's mainly that efficiency, your errors, and your key person risk. So if your practice is spending anywhere between 12 to 20 hours a month to actually manage the process, you really need to look into it. If they're frequently checking through the cupboards and recounting their stock, and you might have 2 to 4 different processes to manage the whole process, you've got an efficiency problem. And that's obviously stock management. Now, the next thing is then errors. So how frequently are you running out? Do you have a reorder point in the clinic? Are you over ordering or are you even under ordering? Like what's your frequency of ordering? How often are you forgetting things? Now, obviously, when we forget things, you then get that high freight expense, right? Which is a bit of a pain. Yes. A lot of practices or practice owners I know gets the stock manager kind of sweeps it under the rug. Like, no, we didn't order that. We didn't forget about that item. But there are a couple of things for your efficiency and your errors. Now, because we obviously rely on the staff so much to manage this process, and the staff are just doing the best that they can, we find that practices rely quite heavily on those staff members. So they've got that key person risk. So you need to ask the question of, if that person got sick, went on holiday, or even left, would your process fall apart? And if you can answer yes to any of those things, then you know that you've got a stock management problem in your practice that you need to address. That's kind of how we define those symptoms.
I'm thinking about my own practice as I'm asking these questions, because one of the things that is really useful from a practice owner's point of view is to measure, I should say, usage rates. So, typically how long does XYZ product last before I need to reorder? And the reason I'm asking that is, if I'm planning on bringing on another dentist, to bring on another clinician, how do I anticipate what my required stock levels might need to be? As I open up a third room or a fourth room or whatever it happens to be, what sort of maths or what sort of considerations need to go into that, please, mate?
Firstly, for a dental practice is understanding how much you're using at any given point in time. So once you've worked that out, if you add a new room and that you've got a new dentist that's doing another 5 days a week, then all of your stock expenditure will double. It's simple as that. It will actually double in the clinic. Now, I work with a lot of different practice owners that might have started one practice, they've got Invident set up and they're using it for their single practice, but then they come to me and say, okay, cool, I want to open another location. What does that look like? And all that takes from my perspective is just to pretty much duplicate the practice into another location. They've got that visibility across both of those practices. So I pretty much say to practice owners, expect it to double. I think a lot of dentists and practice owners underestimate how much more goes into actually doubling the stock management process. It's a lot more work.
Huge.
And I have so many practice owners actually get caught out because they underestimate it. And as soon as they underestimate it, it then affects that growth of that second clinic. It's so important that you get on top of your stock management in your first clinic before you even think about like opening another clinic or another room or whatever it might be, because you can expect every single time you double your practice, it's going to double your stock usage.
So, Luca, what I want to ask you about is the labor cost with stock management and ordering. So let's just for a moment assume that we don't have Invident in our practice, and let's just say for this exercise, it's a garden variety 3 or 4 chair dental practice in one of the suburbs of a major city. How many staff hours, is it 10, 12, 15, whatever, per week, or maybe less? How many hours per week are utilised, in staff hours, managing stock, ordering, checking orders, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so your general dental practice is going to be spending anywhere between, I'd say, 4 to 6 hours a week. Now, that can obviously get once that gets kind of extrapolated into a month, it's quite a bit of time. And the thing for a lot of these practices is that the practice owner doesn't understand how much time the process is taking. So they could have a staff member there sitting for half a day trying to manage and order the stock without even realizing.
And then the question is, okay, let's just say we automate that process. We use software, in this case Invident, or whatever system we use, but in this case Invident. If we're going to go from 4 or 6 hours a week, and typically from a business owner's point of view, how many hours are we going to save by utilising better stock management, better ordering processes?
If you've got a good stock management process, it means that the ordering is super easy because you've got that list of what you need to order, how many you need to order, and who you need to order it from.
Yeah.
So once you implement a system with Invident, you can actually import that order of all the products that are running low directly into those orders across all of your suppliers in 5 minutes. You can do your ordering, and anyone can do your ordering by just clicking a button, importing your orders, sending it off, and it will send it to all of your suppliers. So the ordering side, they're not going to be sitting there for 4 or 5 hours actually managing the process.
Yep.
It's more so the time to actually manage it is through all of the staff members throughout the day. So they might to actually manage that stock process and get that output of that list of products you need to order with all the products kind of flagged as running low, and then obviously recommending that quantity to kind of order that stock. Yep. There's obviously a little bit that we have to do as far as setting up that process, which is super easy to set up, but more so, you're going to be able to do that ordering in a very short period of time.
Okay, so we're going to save at least a few hours a week, right?
Yeah, 100%. And this is practices that are using our tool at the moment are saving anywhere between 4 to 6 hours a week, sometimes even more, depending on how big the clinic is. It really depends on the size.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do, the reason I'm asking these questions is I'm trying to figure out what's the actual financial benefit for a practice owner, because that's the world I live in. And what I'm hearing is we're going to save 4 or 6 hours of wages, which could be anywhere between 120, 130 up to $200 a week in underutilized wages that could be better deployed elsewhere. And if we extrapolate that across the year, we're looking in that, $5, $6, $7, $8, even up to $10,000 a year in wages being better utilized. And on top of that, it's a system that's repeatable, scalable, and it's reducing that key person risk if someone, as you say, is sick or leaves or whatever. So there's a lot of benefit. One of the things we talk about in the work I do is how do we build value in the business? And we're always talking about creating systems for scale and systems for reliability and repeatability. And what I'm hearing then is if we've got a system driving our stock management and we've got a system driving our ordering rather than a person driving that or people driving that, we're going to have better outcomes, less errors, smoother processes, etc. But equally, we're actually building value in our business as well, because it's now business operating as a business, not as a group of people who kind of have the sticky notes and the corridor conversations about what to order next.
Exactly. And for a dental practice, giving them the data to then, if they ever go to sell their practice, the person that comes in knows exactly what's going on with the stock process.
Yeah.
The most stressful thing for a dental practice owner when they're buying or selling a practice is doing that stock take to value the stock.
Yes.
Right? And they pretty much, I've seen everybody just guessing. They just say, okay, cool, we'll just shut the stock door and that's worth about 20 grand, right?
Yep.
And they kind of just come to this agreement without actually understanding how much it costs. So it does provide a lot of transparency. And once you're able to implement a process that supports that, then yeah, your practice is worth more. And also we're going to reduce your stock expenditure from the general dental practice from a market research in Australia spends anywhere between 10 to 15% of turnover on stock. What if we could reduce that to 5%, right? What if we could reduce that to 6%? So that saving, if your practice is turning over $1 million a year and you're spending 10% on stock, it's 100 grand a year that you're giving to your suppliers, right? If you can reduce that to 5%, it's 50 grand. That's 50 grand in your pocket, right? So it's so important that we can obviously provide that process and also the transparency there as well.
So again, you're going to save money in three ways. You're going to save money with better utilised wages, which we've touched on. We're going to save money on reducing our cost of consumables down to 5 or 6%. And we're also going to save money or create value in the business by having a process that's robust and repeatable and so on and so forth. So yeah, some good things.
And I'll just add one more thing to that is reduce stress, right? I see some practice owners trying to do the ordering and they're doing it because they're trying to save money. But look, you need to give it to your staff because the dental practice owner is more valuable seeing patients. And look, if they've got kids at home, they need to be spending time with their children or in the practice seeing the patients. So, look, as you know, it's important to
if there are any
stress.
practice owners listening to this podcast who are doing their own ordering, call me straight away because we need to talk and get that task taken off you immediately because that is not the highest and best use of your time. So, Luca, mate, I think this is a really fascinating topic and we can obviously dive into it for hours and hours and hours. Firstly, well done on getting into the heads and hearts of dentists because you're solving a real problem for them. And I appreciate people who've got the initiative and the drive to actually identify a problem and then back themselves to go out and build the solution to address it. So my big thumbs up from me around that. I think that's amazing. So if you want to find out more about Invident, of course, head across to their website, invident.com, invedent.com, or alternatively, you can email them at the office. Luca, what's the best email for people to reach you on in case they want to find it?
So it's info@invident.com. So great. Info@invident.com. It will come through to our team and we can certainly have a chat. Otherwise, you can also just sign up directly through the website. Something that's pretty funny, Jesse, is that we used to just have a sign-up form where we would go create all of the accounts for some of these practices, but we've had so many people just on the website creating these accounts that I don't want to sit there kind of creating these accounts. So we've started to build the self-serve account creation to save me a bit of time.
You've had to build the software to support dentists. Now you've had to build the software to support yourself, mate. So
pretty much.
That's fantastic. There's a certain delicious irony about that, mate. But I think that's amazing. Well done, you.
Yeah,
Luca. Once again, mate, I really appreciate you sharing those insights. And I think one of the things that really came out of this episode for me is addressing stock management before you address ordering, making sure you know what you're ordering and how many. And to do that, you've got to be able to have a robust process about checking in your stock, checking out your stock. And I think that's going to be really key and helpful moving forward. So again, mate, thanks for highlighting that and sharing with the audience some really good strategies around getting it right. So you're a good man. So thanks again for coming on.
Glad that I could really help and super excited to see how we go over the next couple of months. And if anyone gets in contact, then we'll happily have a chat about your stock process and stuff.
Great. Thanks, mate.
Easy. Cheers, Jesse.
Thank you for listening to the Savvy Dentist podcast. For more episodes, go to drjessegreen.com/savvydentist. And to discover how to build a high-performance dental practice, visit drjessegreen.com and download the free report.